Hello, Australia. Welcome to the Raw Report. I'm your host, Ryan Jackson-Saw with ANR News. How long in this country have politicians said and done whatever they liked, and they've gotten away with it because they have the security of a two-party system to hide within? Well, things are changing in the next election, and based on public opinion, there's a heavy weighting towards third-party options. Many are saying that One Nation, as well as the UAP, will gain a significant portion of votes come next election time. Now I'm here today with a member running for One Nation. This is Tonya Scott, and she's got a few things to say. Hi, Tonya, welcome to the show.
Hi again, Ryan. Thanks for having me in a different pair of pants today.
Always a pleasure to have you on, Tonya. Now, since you're running for One Nation, and so I wanted to get a bit into it with you. And yeah, we'll just get a few questions in to find out where you're coming from. Like, for instance, why did you decide to run as a candidate for One Nation?
Well, first, when I was asked, I refused and said, no, it's not for me, because, you know, I don't want, that's not what I would do. I'm not somebody that likes to stand up and talk in front of people. It's way out of my comfort zone. Totally way out of my comfort zone. And then a few things have happened, as we all know, that there are things going on in this country at the moment that people aren't happy with, and I wasn't happy with. And I would just remember my grandmother saying to me that nothing ever got done if we all sat and waited for someone else to do it. So, and then that just kept playing on in my mind. And then I thought, well, why not? So then I rang Jennifer back and said, yeah, all right, I'll do it. Yeah, so it's sort of been a bit of a roller coaster ride from there, trying to get my head around politics, because be honest, I don't know very much about politics, and I'm learning just, you know, about things. So yeah, that's it mainly.
Well, that's exactly how Pauline Hanson started out. She ran a fish and chip shop, and she ended up being a state senator, and she's now a part of Australia's history with the politics. Yeah. So what exactly is your background?
Well, my background, I have been working in aged care for the past 20 years, so I have a pretty good understanding of what goes on in the health industry, and with that, and we really suffer, you know, which is really suffering, as if anyone has seen my previous video, they'd see that. I spent a lot of time growing up in the country, outback Australia. My father was a police officer, so I got to travel around a fair bit. So I got to see quite a fair bit of South Australia, from sort of like Adelaide right up to Marla, and got to meet a lot of people in all different walks of life. You know, we've got miners, we've got Aboriginal people, there's very poor people that live up there, a lot of very wealthy people live up there, so it's, you know, it's a big you know, sort of a big area. I lived on American Air Force Base, Woomera, for a while, and that's a closed town, just kind of what we're experiencing at the moment. You had to check in and check out, and people, you had the federal police needed to know where you were at all times. So back in those days, so it's sort of very, very much what's going on at the moment. So yeah. So
you grew up right in the heart of the country, essentially. You've probably seen quite a bit of Australia that most people haven't seen.
Yeah, I have. And then I also went to boarding school in Alice Springs for a while too, when we lived up there. It was either boarding school or School of the Air. So yeah, that was the choices. So yeah, so that's it. So I've just been an average basic kid, like 90% of Australia, really. So yeah. So I sort of think I've got a pretty good idea of what happens down on this level. And really, when you are a politician, I think you need to know these things, and that's why I think I'm probably a good choice for that, because I do know what's going on down here pretty much.
Oh,
and it's not what they think.
It's great to see that a lot of the grassroots politicians who haven't grown up in the rich boarding schools and haven't been ostracized from most of the country through a social division. You actually seen on the ground what it's like struggling for mums and dads. You've seen the hard yakka.
Yeah, I have, and I've also been there myself. You know, I've been in a situation where I've been a single parent trying to bring up children, and I'm trying to pay mortgages and that. You know, I've been there too. I've had to deal with Centrelink, and I know how wonderful that is, sitting on hold for 35 to like how long's a piece of string, and to talk to somebody and then to get cut off just at that right time. It's like, oh my God, that's so just annoying. And a lot of people have to deal with that. I know what it's like to deal with NDIS because I've got a disabled grandson. So it's, yeah, I think I've got a pretty good understanding what happens down here. So,
So well, you're living now in South Australia. What issues are the most relevant, do you think, in that area?
I think the main issues at the moment is basically resources really here. Health is a really big one. We've had our emergency department shut down here, which is crazy, absolutely crazy. Our town is a growing community and we've got houses going up everywhere. We've got farmers, we've got builders and that here. We need an emergency to get to Mount Barker. You know, it's a 20-minute drive. And then some of the outer communities, we've got like Malang, those sort of areas. That's a little bit out of my area, I think, in Hyson. But I mean, they still need to use the hospital. So like there's a 20-minute to get to Strath and then another 20 minutes onwards to Mount Barker. So that's 40 minutes if someone hurts themselves. And if we could rely on our ambulance service, which we can't at the moment, because we have an ambulance here, which is a voluntary ambulance, as we know that SA Ambulance is, or we have paid staff and you have voluntary staff. Most of the rural and country areas are usually voluntary. They're transport, so they're probably transporting someone, and that's probably ramped down at the Royal Adelaide. So then we don't have an ambulance here either. So if you can imagine being on a farm, the sort of accidents and things that can happen, and we don't have an ambulance. So I think that's a really big issue here. We've had several cases where people have passed away just recently because an ambulance hasn't got here in time. I think it was like 35 minutes someone reported before they could get an ambulance. And that's terrible because our ambulance is ramped down at the Royal Adelaide, you know. So that's a really big thing. Our health here is really, that's a really big thing. We've got emergency services are having issues with their communications devices. Yeah, that's just two of, I think, it was some of the major issues that we have at the moment. But I would say health is probably a really big one for our area.
Right.
So,
if someone knows about health, it's probably you, who's worked in the field for a long time. So they can spend trillions of dollars on submarines and yeah, they can't spend money to get ambulances into small country towns. And perhaps you're right, that's something that needs to change in the near future.
It certainly does.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a big cycle. We need to do something about the ramping. Is a really big thing, because if we could have our ambulance here, well, then that would be fantastic. It's a very big problem.
That's a big issue. I'm sure you'll do a good job in your position to take care of some of that. Why are Australians increasingly looking outside of the two-party system? And we're seeing a lot of support right now for independent parties that are running, including One Nation.
Yeah, well, I just think people are just fed up with being promised that we're going to help you and it doesn't happen, or it gets worse. Because the last couple of elections, I think that's what's happened. We've been promised and it hasn't happened, or what they have promised, it's just got worse. And with COVID, and it's just gone to show that obviously Australia hasn't been prepared. Nothing's been prepared for this type of thing. And I think that's it. People just have lost faith in our two parties. And I just think they're also so out of touch on what's happening down here. And, you know, I mean, a lot of those people went to like private schools and things like that. They've got no idea what it's like to not have food to put on the table. I'd love to see one of those politicians come and live for a week on what a lot of their people down here live on. I don't think they'd even last half a day, to be quite honest. It's, you know, it's pretty rough down here. It really is. You know, there's a lot of homeless. We've got people living in their cars. You know, it's just not on. And I just totally think they're out of touch. Either that or they just don't want to know. And people are fed up with it. So, and that's what I'm hearing.
We saw a perfect example of that recently with Dan Andrews, who was asking, why are those people even out there protesting? We've seen the biggest shutdown of small business in Australia's history. We're seeing homelessness on the rise. We're seeing depression on the rise. We're seeing all kinds of issues in that state alone. And he's wondering why they're protesting. Just that level of disconnect, which is why we need more grassroots politicians like you to be running right now.
Yeah. And, you know, I'd really like to challenge one of them to actually go and stay in a nursing home or an aged care facility for a few days and, you know, go and sleep there and go and eat the food they're eating. Go do it. And, you know, you see what it's really like. You know, I think they really need to. They need to get down here and they need to see what's going on. And you cannot possibly know unless you hang out with these people and talk to them. You just don't, or live it. You don't know. You just don't get. They just don't get it. They really don't. They might say they do, but they don't. So,
I'm sure they'll find out eventually when they end up in those homes themselves and they realize, oh, I wish I did something about this while I was in a position to do it.
Workers aren't valued either. You know, all workers aren't valued. You've got the AMBOs and the police and yeah, I mean, that's more on a sort of like federal level, but yeah, I just don't think that they're valued. And small business really struggle. We have got a lot of small business in these small towns and they really struggle and they're closing down. It's not good. I really feel for them. I really do. It's just awful. Must be horrible running a business because I know when you go to open a business, it's such an exciting time. And then if things don't go right, I mean, you could lose everything, lose your house. Yeah, it's not good.
Well, I'm sure we can make changes, but we need to have a good, honest election, I think, if we're going to get some positive changes in this country.
So it'll take time. It's not something that's going to all of a sudden you might get quite a few in on the crossbench, but you know, it'll take time. So yeah, I just really think we just need some really, really good changes happening in Australian politics. We really do. We need to get more people that know what's going on down here, because it isn't fun. It really isn't. It's not a fun time, and especially now, there's a lot of very scared people about knowing what they're going to do. So.
Who else is running for One Nation this year?
Well, there's Jennifer Game. She's our state. And then I can't sort of say who there is, but we've got about 10 other candidates that are running at a state level in South Australia. So some of the areas are actually quite large. If you go and actually have a look at the boundaries, are huge. Some of them are really big, so it's going to be a lot of work. But I just think it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got a really great bunch that we met up earlier this week, and really great, diverse bunch of people. So it's going to be very fun. I think very down to earth people that really know what the average South Australian is dealing with at the moment. It's good. Quite exciting, actually. So, yeah, well, I suppose I'm a bit nervous, a bit scared, but I'll get there.
We're really looking forward to seeing how One Nation does this year. Now, for our listeners at home, we're going to be having Tonya back on next week, who's going to be outlining some of her policies, and she'll be happy to answer some of your questions as well. So if you leave those below in the comment section, we'll get to those. Thank you again, Tonya. It's been absolutely wonderful having you on, and we look forward to getting you back on the show again.
No worries. Look forward. See you later.
See ya.